Well, we're back at it again, but in the worst of ways. First off, thoughts and prayers to our at least two service members who were lost from attacks, whether they were ballistic missiles or drones, in Jordan, at one of the air bases there. And this is going to lead to a significant escalation in this war. I know earlier in the war, we had lost at least a dozen troops thus far. But, one thing about we Americans, that the further away we get from a traumatic event, the more life catches up with us and we kind of just push it to the wayside and we do other things. And it's kind of where we were when it came to the beginnings of this war, which started in February 28th of 2026 up until July 18th, when unfortunately we lost additional members of the military. This from the Wall Street Journal. U.S. launches new strikes on Iran after missile attack kills 2 troops. Another service member is missing, and there were a lot more wounded. I did say about this attack earlier, actually, even before the attack, I had some thoughts in just literally this war, how to get out of it. And this is before I learned about anything that occurred today. I said on Twitter, prioritizing the free flow of oil and de-escalation with Iran is essential for American interests in the global economy. Military force is not the solution. Airstrikes have mostly just cost tons of money, and a ground war would be disastrous, destabilizing mistake. Targeting Iran leadership, in my opinion, it has backfired, fueling domestic unity and national fervor. As long as our troops remain within striking distance, the prospect of diplomatic concessions is slim. The most effective way to restore stability is to neutralize the threat by withdrawing our bases and our forces, ending the conflict on our own terms. Like most of my ex-girlfriends used to say, it is time to pull out. And this is my statement here, just basically has to do with that we have tons of examples where airstrikes don't seem to be getting the job done. They're not conceding. They're not quitting. It seems to be that they may even be, amplifying and getting themselves better during the breaks in kinetic activity. And one thing that the Iranians have already said since this attack is that they threw one of our statements back in our own faces that the president made in June. This is from Reuters. He said this in June 17th of 2026. Unfair for Iran to lack ballistic missiles if other countries can't have them. Let's remember what this time frame was. Middle of June, we're trying to make this memorandum of understanding work. We're trying to get these negotiations in Pakistan. They were the mediator. It's Iran and the U.S., and we're sending different diplomats there. We're trying to get this stuff done. So a lot of statements the president were making were to reporters as he was doing gaggles, as he's getting on Air Force One, as he's getting on Marine One. They're asking questions like, hey, if this memorandum of understanding allows them to continue having a ballistic missile, what say you, Mr. President? Then he says something like that, and they want to throw it back in his face. But the point being is they're going to try to justify it. The Iranians are going to try to justify, well, you said it was okay for us to have them. We decided to use them. Here's my bottom line up front when it comes to this situation. I believe that in response to them taking out 2 of our troops, possibly more, we need to rain down on them hard tonight. We need to rain down hard. We need to come down extremely fierce and with very, very little restraint when it comes to our air power, and just show that if this war does continue, which I don't want it to, it will be a mistake, Iran, for you to do one of those type of targetings again. We will put our dick on your shoulder. You won't move. You're going to let it stay there. And if we have someone take a photo to prove that it happened, you're going to smile and you're going to enjoy it. That's just my take. Now, we're seeing some other reporting. This is scuttlebutt. We're not having 100% if this is verified, but at least 2 killed in this, 15 with life-threatening serious injuries being airlifted to Germany. 3 to 5 are on board medevac who will probably not make it to Germany. So out of those 15, they believe 3 to 5 may not make it alive to Germany. Dozens of minor injuries in troops who took shrapnel in debris, more traumatic brain injuries than anyone currently knows. So we won't know like reported firm numbers for a couple of reasons. Number one, we got to inform families. Number two, I'm surprised we learned about these killings so quickly, because a lot of times we don't want to know we don't want to let the enemy know how effective their targeting was so quickly. That's just normally how we take a stance on something. So a lot of times we may inform family and we may decide that we're not going to tell the public for a number of days or weeks because we don't want Iran to know how effective one of their attacks were. Maybe the family said, I'm going to be I'm coming out and I'm going to say something. I don't know what may have happened, but normally that's the kind of stance that we have. So I do believe that this is all the reason that we should be hitting Iran with the glizzy. We should be hitting them hard tonight, but immediately start what I said earlier, the pulling out of the region. There's a report from the Wall Street Journal as well, from the same article I talked about earlier. U.S. officials suspect that China and Russia may be feeding Iran targeting data after Tehran struck sensitive sites with unusual precision. Now, I myself was at several air bases in Jordan in 2012. I was on a Marine Expeditionary Unit. And while I was on the 2-4 MU, I was in multiple countries going from military bases to our allies bases, going just back and forth. And one thing about the Jordanians, they have some of the best special operation forces in the world. We trained them and they're really, really good, especially those forces that wear the king's badging. I forget what they call them, but Jordan has a king and he has like special forces that uses the badging of the king. Those guys are really good. So whether you're in Amman, you're in Aqaba, you're at one of those air bases, you're wherever, a lot of those sites are sensitive. A lot of the information is kind of kept in wraps. We might have troops staying at the Movenpick Hotel in Aqaba. We might have troops staying at the Hilton in Amman. We may have troops on our bases throughout the region, or we might have troops in rental cars driving down the highway. But that information is normally kept close to the vest. Sometimes even the Jordanians don't know. And for them to have that information does lead me to believe they could be getting some of this targeting information from the Chinese and from Russia. All the more reason for us to hit hard tonight and start the process of getting up out of there. So this attack tonight is going to cause a big escalation in this war. I hope that it does slow down soon. Also, from that same Wall Street Journal reporting, Iran has been firing extremely high. Their missiles have been firing at extremely high speeds and can maneuver as they streak towards the earth. Now, as we understood it, especially in March, a lot of the missiles that Iran was using, they cluster, or once they're on target, they don't move. But if they're beginning to come smart almost, that's an issue. I had to ask myself, when the heck did they start doing this? Because I didn't know much about that. But even bigger picture is that Iran killed 2 of our U.S. troops. I don't know if they're soldiers or airmen or Marines, but 1 member is missing. The attacks may have wounded dozens of more troops. And also, even less important than the troops is the equipment. The helicopters apparently were damaged as well. So this is going to cause a lot of kind of ripple effects. I have another channel called Marine X Afterthoughts. I'll link it up down below. I've been putting a lot of my like commentary thought videos on that channel and kind of leaving this one to the gear and stuff that's EDC and prep related. But I wanted to put this one here for a couple of reasons. Number one, I think that this is going to cause the cost of oil, which can affect your prep in your everyday life, to skyrocket, at least in the interim. I think that we are all kind of lost in the summertime haze of the World Cup finals tomorrow. Today's the bronze, the fight for third place in the World Cup, which I think England won that, but I have to check that out later. And we have so many things going on. I'm in the middle of getting my pool fixed, and one of my neighbors is dealing with an infestation problem. And a lot of times we can just move without realizing what's affecting us. And I want to just say that there is a possibility that we may have an increase in our cost in our daily lives because of what is happening right now. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth says after the news that we lost 2 service members, Godspeed, heroes. The sacrifice only stiffens our resolve. Seems like we're putting our heels in the stand. I say we because I'm talking about the Sec War. And this is, I mean, he's guiding what we do next, and he's steered by the president. And this seems to be the way we're going to be doing things. So what does that really mean? I think that the strikes are going to be heavy tonight. I think we're going to be more open to striking civilian targets tonight. I think we're going to be more open to possibly taking one of their islands. I think that this is going to just cause an escalation. And I think that we're so far into the sunk cost fallacy of this war that I don't know if we're going to get out of what I call the commitment trap. Both Washington and Tehran have invested a lot in this conflict. And there becomes a immense financial resource aspect of it, the military hardware, the political credibility of both parties, that they're going to think, if I pull out now, I've sunken so much into this, there's no way I can stop. I don't think that that's true. We have to think about escalation versus de-escalation. And I don't think we have to escalate just because of the amount of cost that we put into something, or just because of a specific attack. I think we should hit them hard tonight, but that does not mean we continue to have to escalate. I also don't think we should begin to justify our past sacrifices. Our policymakers are possibly falling into the trap of think about a past sacrifice, whether it's a troop, hardware, money, for future aggression. That's where things could go very, very wrong. You know, it's been reported also that according to the New York Times, Jordan, the country that this attack took place at, has become increasingly becoming a bigger target for Iran. Jordan sits just south of Israel, and in the region where I would say like southeast of Israel. In the region, Jordan is a big partner of ours. They're very large. They have direct access to the Red Sea. They have a very large landmass. They're right there next to Iraq, right there near Turkey, right there near Lebanon. And so we do have the ability to have them as a connected partner. And it seems to be that more and more Iran is beginning to target them. And it's being reported by Channel 14 News, who is super unreliable. I'm going to give you the reporting, but I don't know how reliable it is. President Trump apparently ordered CENTCOM, Central Command, to open the gates of hell after learning about the 2 service members that were unfortunately killed. The validity of that, Channel 14 News has been all over the place. Their reporting is like hit or miss for me, but I wanted to get that out there. But even with that being said, as of 1800 Eastern Standard Time on July 18th, 2026, this is what we're getting from U.S. Central Command on their X account. Today, U.S. forces began launching new airstrikes against Iran at the commander-in-chief's discretion. The strikes are designated to further degrade Iran's ability to threaten commercial shipping in the Strait of Hormuz and swiftly punish the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps forces for launched attacks against American service members in Jordan last night. Look how specific the wording is on that. You know, at the beginning of this war, we had a laundry list of things we were going for. Degrade their ballistic missile programs, make sure they can never have a nuclear weapon, maybe possibly take out the leadership. None of that list included free and open commercial access to the Strait of Hormuz because it was never an issue. Now, as I mentioned with this escalation trap, we feel like we can't leave because there's not free flow in the Strait of Hormuz. Man, fuck it. Let's get up out of there. Let the countries in that region figure it out. If nowadays it becomes a toad, and that's a consequence of what's going on over there. I much rather would just focus on us and let the chips fall over there. Because if someone would have told me last week that we're going to lose 2 troops, possibly more, but we're going to bomb the hell out of them and they're going to quit. Now, I don't know what the Strait of Hormuz is going to look like after that, but they're going to quit. Is it worth it? I'd be like, nope. I'd rather have those troops. I'd rather let those countries figure this shit out. and I'd rather be able to just make my pockets look right. But what do I know? Maybe you should comment down below. Let me know, is this an inevitable escalation, or are we going to potentially de-escalate after we do these attacks tonight, like I'm hoping that we do? First time stopping by, hit the subscribe button. I would love to have you part of the battalion. If this is not your first time stopping by, well, thank you once again for watching me run my grape. Everyone else, we'll speak soon.